I was listening to Wagner here.
Oh.
Oh.
I love him.
Yeah, I left it in there. The Parsifal finale, which is about 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You can just hear the new you in it, and it would be cool if you recorded that with using that. It's really cool. There's two. I really studied the music too, and went through. Didn't really care a whole lot for Mozart. It's okay. Beethoven was fine, but I got to Wagner. He was very in tune. And two pieces: Prelude to Act One, Lohengrin, which is the Ascension, and then this Parsifal finale, 5 minutes, is awesome. Yeah, I actually had Kelsey and Chris play this as background music in some of the video.
It's exquisite.
Yes, yeah, Wagner was very tuned into the real universes, and there's a book called from Helene Colleen called "The Esoteric Music of Richard Wagner," because all his operas were based upon, more than just what we see here. And so again, it gives you an idea. And while you were talking there, it's a good history of what is going on in Pythagoras' day. And Paul talked about that too. He said when he was with Pythagoras, it was 5 years of silence with him, etc. And it made sense for those times, etc. And we come up through all this and the hue and all this. And so it's interesting. And yeah, the Sugmod, I remember I used to use that too. And Paul utilized those things. But, since this has come into what it is now, what I call the new nowness and the new you, it's interesting, isn't it? Because this is what it is now. So I would find it, you're talking about 432, which is a 9, and it'd be interesting to see what is, the world itself has set that pace, whatever, in creation, and it would be interesting to see what it is, if that's frequency or whatever it is, with what it is really now with the new you. Mm-hmm. And so, and how it's specified. See, we did the hue. We all did the hue. It was hue, and then we add a little to it. But when the new you came out, when I was shown this, I added the you. And so it became the new you, because the you represented the is. And so I saw it as explaining that, yes, the is new now. And then I remember there was one experience that an African had with Rebazar on the real side, because the individual was being attacked by tapliners and vampires and whatever, and Rebazar told him, sing the new you like this: new you, with the 3 U's. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of see this as interesting. And I want to add this real fast here. And for those of you that were in the corporation, because we're talking about frequencies and whatever, Paul, described his position, and, the frequency, we'll just go by that, this range, or this frequency range, because, just life is light and sound is what it is. And that for most people, they're usually at a 2 or 3. And he explained that, the Living Act Master, which was his position at the time that he decided, was like 60. Okay, so there's quite a difference. And so from that time till now, because of the new wave, the new wave is much, much more in the Valley of Tremere, and they're passing the rod of power. That was then. So we have the new wave is, and the frequencies of what's taking on, and this is where most people don't really understand what's happening now. This is where it's a little bit tough for them to see it, because the frequencies are so much different. So it would be interesting, Sandy, if you look to the real side and what they show you about the 432, and with the new you and what we're doing, what is new now. So yes, in Paul's time, because again, you go over this history and you look at the difference between what Paul presented and what I'm presenting, And so it is just very much so more real. And this is just what I see. So again, the experiences the individuals had, like the one where Depong, one of the Africans, saw me on the real side, is like 700 meters tall or whatever. Again, what they're seeing is what I'm aware of. And so anybody can accomplish this if they will, focus in a particular way. But again, it's so that, again, for the most part, most people's attention and their intent, it's very important, is on the personal self. And we've went through this many, many times. So, as you're talking about history and the musical things, you see that it comes into a harmony with what is in creation alone. And that's fine. But that's not the ultimate itself. So this is where the new is here. This new reality, the isness is here. And so the application is not the same to recognize this. It's a recognition as opposed to what it was. And so just from Paul's day till now, and this is a verification, Claudia is the great witness, etc. So there is frequency available that can clear out so much and everything, but the individual decides, if they want to go that route or not. This is where it becomes so real that it would seem as though, no, it can't exist at all. And this is the interesting part. This is the part that I like. This is why I take the risk and do what I do in the physical sense, because again, we're in simulator here. And it's so easy to agree with these things that seem to work out well, but they all run their course. And then we have to start over again. In other words, we've lived the life, and just like Mozart producing symphonies as an example. And there was this movie Amadeus, which was very, very good. And he drove himself just to writing the symphonies until, he wasn't paying attention. He basically destroyed himself. So he comes back again and back again and back in. There's actually on YouTube, there's a little gal, it's like 3 years old. She's a little Japanese Asian gal. She's playing Mozart piano like she's Mozart. And so again, and Mozart came back, in this lifetime very young and was able to do these things because he practiced and he practiced and he practiced. And so we go through these routines constantly, but now we have the new you. And we have this new position that is vast and endless, that's possible. And so again, taking a look at the restrictions that we've come to know and so easy to agree to, but when you take the time to discover that, the new you, and this new wave that's here now, there's just a whole lot more to it. And this is where you can bring out what's new now. You see, so we have history and what is agreeable to that, but now here's a new position. And just like what I've created here with the worldwide educators, it doesn't go along the lines of compensating with what is going on in the world, because it doesn't work anymore. Just like the hue and all these things. These things, they're nice, they're cute, whatever, and the people are nice, but it's not working, is it? It's really not working. So again, what else is there? And this becomes the great adventure. Yes, go ahead.
This is another little story I just remembered. A few years ago, they had a documentary on TV called The Weeping Camel. I don't know if anybody saw it, but there's a Bactrian camel. This is in Mongolia, in the Gobi Desert. And there was a Bactrian camel who gave birth to a white baby. This was a first-time mother, as I recall, and she wanted nothing to do with that baby, nothing. Wouldn't feed it. And so they said, well, we've got to take some things in hand here. And so they tried singing lullabies to it. They would cover it with a blue cloth, and the mother, as they weren't doing it to the baby, they were doing it to the mother. And still nothing. She wouldn't feed her baby. She wanted nothing to do with them again. And so they have something there from old times. Here we go with old times again. But they call on a special musician, and they had to send somebody to the city to bring this special musician out. And he had some sort of a Mongolian guitar. I think it was called a horse head, and I remember that because I like horses. But the musician went to the mother, and he started singing and playing his violin. And pretty soon, the mother started weeping. That's where it came in, crying. And she let down her milk, and she fed her baby. And I thought that was so interesting. How many of us do that, you know, with a pet that's in trouble or something? Sing New You to it. Oh, I have one more story. A couple years ago, I was practicing a very hard song. It is by Mozart. He isn't my favorite composer either, but he does. It's from The Marriage of Figaro, and it goes like a house of fire. It's a soprano, a high soprano aria. I don't know how many times you have to hit the high C and the D right after that. It wears you out when you sing it. Well, every time I sang it, or was practicing it, I should say, because I never completely mastered it, I would get a male oriole in my yard. This was during the summer, obviously, and he would sing along with me every time. It didn't matter what time of day, morning, noon, evening, he would come into the yard and sing with that song that I was playing. And anyway, I thought, well, I'm going to test this out a little bit, and so I played other composers, like Puccini and whatever else, Puccini, and no dice. He wouldn't fly into the yard and sing. I thought, well, you little stinker. But every time I would play that, he'd fly into the yard. For some reason, he must have been in harmony with that song. But I always remember, and he sang really pretty. So, but I didn't know about the New You then. So anyway, anybody else comment?
Those are great bird stories, Sandy. Those are so cool because you have your experience with all these things. And again, see, each one of us has experience. And so with what is taking place now through all these lifetimes that we've gone through this, and this lifetime too, very minuscule this lifetime compared to what we've been through. And as we just take the time to just even look at history, even that's very minuscule to all the experience we have. But now, with the new you, this is a new moment in all of life. This is what's so cool about it. And so, as I saw this, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to take advantage of this simply because, and not take it for granted. Most people will take it for granted. And so it just depends upon how you apply yourself to it. But yes, you see that too. And so there's many applications to anything. It's like you put honey out and the ants come, right? And so, yeah, a little trick is if you got ants in your house, we'll put some honey outside and get them to go out there because they've got little scouts. They're always looking around for the goodies. We'll put the honey outside and get them to go outside. So there's different things we do that in creation to deal with creation. But now we have the new you, and this is a recognition of this isness to where you free yourself from everything, but yet you still can be in creation. So again, again, it's the intent. Look at your intent and what have you. And then I would be very interested to see what life shows you about the frequency that we're presenting, because you're along the lines of the music. And see, what I see with you is, because you have this musical background, that you can bring out something new and unique with the new you and the is in the musical position. You see, from all that experience. And yeah, Pythagoras did this and that and all of history and whatever, that's fine. But now it's a new moment, and there's a whole lot more that is not seen, And this is part of the fun adventure to decide to see that and what you can bring out from that. You see? Yeah. You lucky you. See, that's your position, and it's just like Mike stepped up with what he knows, and we're doing some business deals along that line, and it's because the boys brought him in and prompted him, and he agreed. So here it is. It's all fitting together with what's being decided here. This real universal position for everybody, but which supersedes everything. Okay, and so I see you having that advantage, but you decide how you're going to go about it and learn to recognize it and figure it out and bring it forward so that it's just really awesome. Yeah. And so I put Parsifal here as an example of Wagner, and that is an awesome piece. I studied Wagner, all the music, all the preludes, everything, broke it down basically to Lohengrin, and this one here, this is number 1. And it can be even more fine-tuned. See, again, there's nice music, and people feel good about it. But really, is there more than just, looking for people to feel good about things? See, again, that's your astral body. And that's fine, but what about your real awareness? Where does it tune into that? And see, so that's where the new you is. And so to bring something into creation that tunes itself with that, and not just the emotional body, because again, we're in a marketing business world. Everything is like, oh, how much money can we make off of this? We'll make it sound good, and everybody likes it. That's all that matters. It's like on Facebook, it's all the likes, and this get 1 million people here, and all of a sudden they're buying it. We're making a lot of money. That all of a sudden, see, that becomes first, and the reality of it becomes lost. And so, what supersedes all this is when we're standing in that real position and seeing ourselves as free being of real light that we are, with no restrictions, more so than the sun shining. Well, what's the value of money? You see, so again, it's how people focus. So they will put that first, or the ideas of it, or the feel-good things too. It's like, okay, well, this is nice. People like it. Are we looking for people to like it? Are we looking for people to like the new you? Most of the world likes the Amen, the Hugh, the whatever. Are we to agree with that? And we see where that is. It's astral, mental worlds, mainly astral, and they're all being tap lined. So here's the new you. I see that because of your musical background, you put it together and you compare and you see the difference, just like we compare and see the difference from what Paul presented to what's taken place to what's now with the new you and the new presentation, you see. So I see you have that advantage and can take on that adventure to bring something out that's really cool and makes sense. And you're talking about the animals and all this and etc. Well, yeah, see, again, there's a huge challenge there to bring something forth like nobody else. Doesn't mean you're going to make a lot of money at it, though, but the thing is that just like this, basically most of the time just trying to figure out how to pay the rent right now. So again, it's not about the money, it's what's being presented. And so I see that with you, that you and others like that, they have that advantage if they will take the time to do it. And then write about it and like your stories, and then give the comparison. You see, again, it's the comparisons that are very important.
Okay. That's great. Bob, you have anything?
No, not on the music end, but
what else?
Why don't you share that we got the DVD from Carl Munch, and we started watching the way the reptilians designed the Earth and set up all the monuments around the planet and built the pyramids and all the mathematics that they used, and everything they did was geomathematics, and they had an interesting method of geometry, which was a lot different than today's geometry, because they they determine areas and volumes in square degrees and cubic degrees rather than square feet or cubic feet or whatever. And so they had all the formulas for all the geometric solids, and they did it in terms of degrees. So all they had to do was compute in the size of the figure that they were dealing with, and they automatically had the answers. And it's really fascinating. We watched the first hour of it so far, and it takes it to a whole new level. And I thought maybe we would actually learn something if we keep watching the rest of this DVD. And then they picked up another one that talks about how they use that same type of geometric mathematics to design all their music. And we got a 2-set DVD, but we haven't watched it yet. Maybe sometime in the next week or so we'll have a chance to look at that. But it does sound very interesting. They really, they were like light years ahead of us technologically, and it's interesting to get a glimpse of how much they really knew. It's quite interesting.
Bob, that you bring that up. Okay, so take a look at it like this. In other words, you have that idea, you see technology, you see what's going on, etc. And yeah, you're going off of what others, and look at their awareness too, and where they're from, and what they're discovering, and what they're presenting. Okay, so I always look at it like, okay, that's something, and a person has experiences, but what else is there? So the true reality life is it along those lines, or are you seeing something in creation? You see? So again, instead of, in a way, what we first do many times is we take these things as absolutes, and they're not. They're just something created in creation that's a reference to something else that's unseen, you see? And so to bring that part in other words, accordingly, in other words, I look at the world, I look at the business world as an example, and I can go out there and do what the business world does. I was a contractor for 40 years. I did it. Built many things, did all kinds of stuff, had the family, whatever. Yeah, I could do that. I could do all that, but I decided to do this. And to figure out something else, again, from what is the norm, the spiritual paths and whatever. And you see these other people like John Roger Hinkins and Mike Owens and Alan Feldman and whatever, Barton Carr and all these things, and Darwin, whatever, what did they do? They just copied what Paul did. That's all they do. They're copycats. Took the title, all of them say, oh, I got the Rod of Power, I got this or whatever. Again, just a business world thing. And I looked at all this, and I didn't want the membership. I didn't want to do any of this. So I went about to figure out something else. And so this is where we're, basically the all-natural environment supporting all of us. And even Val in the college, these people that are even into ecology, that they can't figure out what we're presenting. It's like, duh, you see? So, and that's fine. But you know what? For me, I see the unique awesomeness that life is. And there's always something else there. But who will take the time and the risk to bring it out and just say, and just bring it forward like the new you. And it's like, see, with me bringing the new you out, it's always been the Hugh, the the Amen, all these things. The world is filled with this. And who will do that? No one else would do it. I stood up and I said, I'll do it. So what I'm saying is that as we go through these things, and just like Mike was here last night, and Janine, and they're wonderful. And I said to Mike, I said, we're going through this right now, Mike. We're going through and all these things you've learned. But guess what? What's coming up, what I've decided is you won't need this nonsense anymore. You won't need the laws and to figure this out in the Constitution. All this is all nonsense. This is all created nonsense. Because again, you look at the reality life is. I mean, just look at I was given an example on Netflix, the Africa episodes. Just sit there and watch that, and actually turn off the sound. Don't even listen to David Attenborough explain it. Just simply watch the images. And all of a sudden, you're transported into a different position altogether that has nothing to do with this world at all, that we've made up and that we constantly calculate to be this or that or whatever. This is how we've been taught to calculate supposedly what life is, instead of seeing it for what it really is. And so this is all the explaining I do in the writing, etc. So who will take the risk to step aside from all the calculations of others? You can use that as a reference, like I used the corporation, even what Paul did, as to what not to do. Yeah, and we need that. But how long are we going to stay stuck with that? So again, yes, we have these things, but you see, this is where each one of us have the opportunity to bring something forward that makes sense with this reality that's taking place now, and not necessarily go along with this or that. You know, we're using the John Ellis water, which is fine, cool. He's an engineer. But you know what? If the reptilians hadn't screwed up the environment and done what they've done, we wouldn't need John Ellis water, you see? So all of a sudden, the John Ellis water is a big deal. We wouldn't need ozone machines, etc., because we'd have it all naturally there with our awareness. You see, it all goes to the awareness, not the consciousness. Consciousness is something created, and we have these creations. And I'm not saying negate these things. I'm just saying that, okay, you look at the playing field, and that's what I did when I created the new presentation, and the new presentation is not a category. What is it? It's not religious, it's not political, whatever. It's not a category. That's what I wanted. I wanted it to not be a category, you see? Because it's just really a presentation. That's life presenting itself to us. And so what can you grab from that, from all that you've learned, that you cannot see or cannot be considered? What is it that you can grab and bring that forward? You see?